Hello students, welcome to EPG Pathshala. I am Dr. Vishal from Maharaja Agarsen University, Badi, Himachal Pradesh. Today we are going to discuss about the module Forms of Business Ownerships under the paper Tourism and Hospitality Entrepreneurship and Legal Environment. After studying this module, the learners will be able to understand the various forms of business ownerships, describe the various features of different forms of business ownerships, explain the relative advantages and disadvantages of each of form of business ownership, understand the factors affecting choice of forms of business ownership, and evaluate the different forms of business ownership. In the words of L.H. Hannay, the various forms of business ownership are such children whose father is economic expediency and whose mother is the law. To initiate any entrepreneurial activity, an entrepreneur has to select a form of business ownership. In other words, one of the first decisions that an entrepreneur has to take as owner is how the enterprise should be structured or through which form of ownership it would operate. The forms of businesses are associated with ownership, which determines the authority and responsibility of the owners. In practical, the forms of business ownerships are those legal forms according to which an enterprise or business is organized and run. Hence, the legal form of business ownership is called the form of business ownership. The other parties recognize an enterprise and its existence through its form. Choosing the appropriate form for any entrepreneurial activity is very crucial as the success of enterprise depend on the selection of form of business ownership. The form of business ownership defines the rights and liabilities of entrepreneur or preneurs, control, life span, and financial structure, etc. Forms of business ownerships. The above description indicates that an enterprise can be run through various forms or modes. Some businesses are operated and managed by a single person and some by many people. Beside this, some businesses are run in private sector while others are in the public sector, and some are in joint, whether public and private. Under entrepreneurship, an entrepreneur can run his enterprise in following forms: sole proprietorship or sole trade, joint Hindu family business, partnership firm, limited liability partnership, joint stock company, one person company, cooperative society. Sole trade, joint Hindu family business, and partnership firm can be categorized as non-corporate, and others LLP, joint stock company, one person company, and cooperative enterprise can be categorized as corporate forms of ownerships. The basic difference between these two categories is legal formalities. Non-corporate form of business may be started without any legal formalities, while corporate forms of business ownerships can be started and run only after completing legal formalities as prescribed under the governing laws of respective forms of business ownerships. Let us now discuss each form of business ownership in detail along with their characteristics, merits, demerits, and suitability. Sole proprietorship. Sole proprietorship is one of the simplest, oldest, and least expensive forms of business ownership in the world of entrepreneurship. Most of the present day forms of business ownerships are the developed forms of sole proprietorship. It is also known as sole trade, individual business, or single entrepreneurship. This is a very popular form of business in India. Due to various features provided by this form of business ownership, it is regarded as best form of business ownership. Sole trade business is established by a single individual. He invests the required amount in the business, manages the business himself, bears all business risk along, and gets all the profits. Due to these unique features, William R. Bassett said that the one man control is the best in the world if that man is big enough to manage everything. The owner of the business is known as sole trader. This individual entrepreneur is fully responsible for all business debts and liabilities. Examples of this form of business ownership are kirana stores, local restaurant, and home-based businesses, etc. In this form of business, entrepreneur has unlimited liberty to run his business. Entrepreneur may select any type of business without meeting any legal formalities except those in which license may be required from the government bodies like health department, municipal authority, or some other bodies. Features of sole proprietorship. Following are the major features or characteristics of the sole trade form of business ownership. Sole trader is the only owner of all the assets and resources of business. Sole trade business is one man show as owner has to take all the decisions. The liability of the owner is unlimited, and if the debits of the business are not met from the assets of the business, this his personal property can be utilized for the purpose. The profits of the business totally belong to owner and losses are borne by owner only. Single entrepreneur can select any trade as per his choice. All the information pertaining to business rests on only with business entrepreneur. There is no separate identity of business and owner in this form, both are the one. Benefits of sole proprietorship. Sole trade business provides some special advantage, and due to these advantages, this form of business is very popular. Number one, it is very easy to start as there is no need to complete any legal formalities except those cases where license is must. Example, to start medical store, it is necessary to get license from health department. Number two, quick decision making is another advantage of this form of business as one man manages all business activities. Number three, Sole trader is free to change his business at any point of time as he is the only owner of business. No outsider can get the secret information of the business like profits, losses, customers, and assets, etc., as every information rests with the owner only. Direct motivation is there in this form of business as owner solely takes all the profits and bears all the losses and risk. Sole trader can maintain personal relations with customers to know more about their tastes, likes, and dislikes. It provides training to run medium and large scale business to individual owners. It can be started with minimum investment. Disadvantages of sole proprietorship. Along with the above advantages which we have discussed, sole trade business suffers from the following disadvantages. The biggest disadvantage of this form of business is unlimited liability. Owner's personal property can also be utilized to meet the debits of the business. Due to individual ownership, limited capital and sources are available for business. Limited managerial support is available for this form of business as one man can never have all the managerial skills. Stability of business is always questionable as owner can close his business at any point of time. Moreover, death of owner also leads to closure of the enterprise. Sometimes business suffers from losses due to individual and hasty decisions. It suits only for few business like shops, restaurants and small businesses, etc. Joint Hindu family business. A business enterprise which is run by the group of people belonging to the same family is known as joint Hindu family business. This form of business is operated according to Hindu law where all the family members including unmarried daughters and wives are the members of the business. In simple terms, joint Hindu family business is that form of business which is carried by all the members of joint Hindu family under the control of Mukhya, head of the family. Mukhya or manager is also known as Karta and members are known as co-parsensors. Students, let's discuss now characteristics of joint Hindu family business. Following are the characteristics of joint Hindu family business. Joint Hindu family business is operated according to Hindu law. This form of business is controlled and managed by Karta. The liability of all the members except Karta is limited up to the individual's interest in the ancestral property. The liability of the Karta is also unlimited. This form of business is easy to start as there is no need of any registration. Shares of the family members may increase or decrease with the birth of new member or death of the existing member. This is more permanent form of business than sole trader as there is not effect of any death on the business. Partnership firm. To overcome the limitations of older forms of business ownerships like lack of capital limited skills, etc., a new form of business is available, that is, partnership form of business ownership. Partnership form of business ownership is that form in which two or more than two individuals willingly join together and start some lawful entrepreneurial activity. A partnership firm is an association of two or more persons who run business together for the objective of profit earning. According to Section 4 of the Indian Partnership Act 1932, partnership is the relation between persons who have agreed to share the profits of a business carried on by all or any of them acting for all. Based on this definition, it can be said that partnership is a kind of agreement between two or more than two persons to run the business and divide the profits of the business. These persons are known as partners and their group is called firm, and the name under which they run their business is known as name of the firm. Features of partnership firm. Following are the characteristics or features of the partnership which is governed under the Indian Partnership Act 1932. To establish a business under partnership form, there is a need of two or more than two persons. The Partnership Act doesn't fix any limit on the number of partners, but as per Companies Act, the number of partners cannot be more than 10 in banking business and 20 in any other business. If the number of partners reduces below 2 and more than 10 or 20, then business is declared illegal. The existence of partnership firm comes from contract between members and not from status. It is important to have a contract between partners to be a legal firm. The agreement or contract between partners is known as partnership deed. There must be an agreement between partners to share profit or loss, as profit is the main motive of the business. Each partner is responsible collectively or individually for all the liabilities of the partnership. Hence, in partnership form of business ownership, liability of the partners is unlimited. It is very easy to form a partnership firm as there is no legal binding on the registration of the firm. Agreement may be oral or written. If partners want to register their firm, the procedure is very simple. This form of business is flexible in nature. If partner want to change their business, it can be changed. Due to unlimited liability, partners put their whole hearted efforts to run their business. Due to limited number of partners, partnership firm may not raise much capital as other forms like companies can generate. In partnership, a partner cannot transfer his interest or share in the firm to outsiders without the consent of all the partners. Future of partnership firm is always uncertain. It may come to an end on the death of any partner and insolvency of any partner, etc. This form of business is suitable for small scale businesses and for those which required less capital investment. Limited liability partnerships. Limited liability partnership, popularly known as LLP, is a world recognized form of business ownership. This form of ownership was introduced in India by an act, that is Limited Liability Partnership Act 2008, which was notified on 31st March 2009. This form of business ownership combines the advantages of both partnership and company form of business organization. LLP form of business enables entrepreneurs to combine professional knowledge and entrepreneurial skills. LLP is an alternative to the traditional partnership, which contains the limitations of unlimited liability and limited managerial skills, etc. This form of business ownership enables professional knowledge and skill to combine, organize, and operate entrepreneurial activity in an efficient manner. Characteristics of limited liability partnership. Following are features of limited liability partnership. LLP is governed by the Limited Liability Partnership Act 2008. Provisions of partnership firm are not applicable to limited liability partnership form of business. LLP is a separate legal entity. It is an artificial person, being invisible, intangible, having no body, mind, and soul. It exists in the eyes of law. As per LLP Act 2008, there should be at least two partners to start entrepreneurial activity. There is no maximum limit on the number of partners. If at any point of time number of members reduces below 2 and LLP carries its business operations more than 6 months, the partner who carries the business more than 6 months shall be personally liable for the liability of LLP for those obligations of LLP incurred during that period. It has a perpetual succession. Any change in its partners shall not affect its existence like ordinary partnership firm. This form of business is more similar to company form of business. The liability of partners in LLP is limited up to the capital contribution of the partners. LLP is formed to carry out business or profession with a motive of profit earning, and partners are free to manage the business directly, unlike shareholders. In LLP, designated partner identification number is mandatory for designated partner of LLPs. Formation of LLP is simple as compared to companies, but not as easy as in case of sole trade and partnership. LLP Act 2008 provides flexibility to the LLP to manage and operate its business. Partner can decide the operations and ways of business. In LLP, it is easy to join or leave LLP, and partners can transfer the ownership according to the provisions and terms of LLP agreement. LLP can attract finance from private equity investors and financial institutions, etc. Number of statutory compliances in LLP are limited as compared to the company form of business. Joint stock company. To remove the limitations of above discussed form of business ownership, entrepreneurs have the option of company form of business organization. According to H.L. Hannay, a joint stock company is a voluntary association of individuals for profits having a capital divided into transferable shares, the ownership of which is the condition of ownership. Company form of business ownership is the group of people which is incorporated under the Companies Act 1956. Many people jointly invest capital in a company, therefore it is called joint stock company. The capital of company is divided into transferable shares, which means shares can be bought and sold. Liability of members is limited. Company is a separate legal entity and its business is run through common seal. Existence of company is continuous or perpetual and separate from its members. In simple words, shares of the company are transferable and life of company is not affected by the entry and exit of its shareholders. Types of companies. Companies are divided into the following categories. Private company. According to Section 3, Subsection 1, Small Section 3 of the Companies Act 1956, a private company means a company which, through its Article of Association, restricts its members to transfer its shares, put limits on number of members, that is minimum 2 and maximum 50, restricts public to subscribe its shares and debentures, minimum paid up capital of 1 lakh rupees, any other restriction imposed by government time to time through Companies Act. Public company. According to Section 3, Subsection 1, Small Section 4 of the Companies Act 1956, public company means a company which is not private. It means a company which does not restrict its members to transfer its shares, does not put limit on maximum number of its members, invites public to subscribe its shares and debentures, minimum paid up capital of 5 lakh rupees, any other restriction imposed by government time to time through Company Act. One person company. The concept of one person company is provided in the provisions of New Companies Act 2013. This form of business ownership provides the benefits of company form of business to an individual also. OPC is a company in which an individual holds the whole of the share capital with other members. As per provision of Section 2, Subsection 62 of the Company Act 2013, one person company means a company which has only one person as member. One person company can be formed by only a natural person who is an Indian citizen and resident of India. Co-operative enterprise. Co-operative enterprises is a voluntary association of group of persons who have joined together to promote their common interest. The basic difference between cooperative enterprise and other forms of business is that, along with business principles, it follows the principle of serving members of the enterprise. Cooperative enterprise is formed and registered under Cooperative Societies Act 1912 or under the concerned State Cooperative Societies Act. It works under the motto "One for all and all for one." Examples of this form of business ownership are agriculture cooperatives, marketing cooperatives, and consumer cooperatives, etc. Determinants of choice of form of business ownership. Although it is the sole decision of the entrepreneur to choose the form of ownership for his entrepreneurial activity, but following are the factors that affect the choice of form of business ownership. Nature of entrepreneurial activity, size of business, degree of control expected by entrepreneur, requirement of finance or capital, legal formalities, ease of formation, extent of liability of entrepreneur, stability of business, secrecy of business information, winding up formalities. So students, let's now summarize what we have learned in this module. An entrepreneur has to select a form of business ownership to initiate his entrepreneurial activity. We have discussed various forms of business ownerships along with their distinct features. Suitability of form of business ownership is dependent on various factors like nature of business, expected control, liability of owner, and ease of formation, etc. No particular form is best in all cases, and selection of a particular form is depend on entrepreneur choice. But once a type of form of business is selected, then it is very difficult to change and choose a new form. So this decision should be evaluated on above given parameters. If an entrepreneur wants to start a small business and financial requirement of business is small, sole trade and partnership form are suitable. But if size of business is large and financial requirement is also huge, company form of business is the best. Before taking any decision on form of business ownership, entrepreneur must evaluate each and every aspect of business on their merits and demerits. Thank you very much.